Sometimes I like to poke fun at the people, the rich people and things. And I want poke fun, but I'm talking the truth, eh? You remember hearing this one? I know they didn't play it much with. Neurosis of the rich? You heard it? You will get that dice for later. We had the thing bracketed in such a way where Miss Mary can them come in later. Neurosis of the rich, ladies and gentlemen. It just goes to show that rich people are very jealous of us. Poor people. You don't think it's possible? Yes, and contrary to yesterday, when wealth was a social law, the official concern today revolves around the core. Their sexual fancies and wild emotion, unemployment, education, ethnic composition have now become interesting studies of exhaustive attention. The rich cannot understand how people getting so much attention. They cannot live with this rejection. They would like to be the object of concern, but idleness has no value of its own. The methodology of conspicuous consumption and waste. The display of diamonds and ruby is now commonplace. For the theory today is that wealth in its sphere is a source of destruction, frustration, and fear. For the wealthy, life is built on despair. Say it again. For the wealthy, life is built on despair. Bada 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 da ba do da da. Sugar da ba do da. Bada da 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 da. Do be do be do be do be da. Sugar do be do be do be da da da. Ay ay ay. Saga da ba do da. Bada bada bada. Once upon a time, people only had to know that you had more than just a dime for them to make you a big hero. But now that present scholars and great professors, academic educators, religious advisors occupy all the time working on some save the poor project, the rich get very upset at the attention poor people get. They see themselves as sad victims of neglect. Yes, they have so much, but to find companionship, every month they have to take a pleasure trip to gamble away loads of money on roulette and dice. Coasting and toasting and boasting to be recognized. Knowing deep down inside they are faced with extinction, for wealth in itself ain't no sort of distinction. They exist in a state of disillusion. Say it again. Yes, they exist in a state of disillusion. Bada 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 da ba da da. Sugar da ba da da. Music in the place. I tell it again. So sad when a high-class broad, ravaged by gross ill health, Papa, you throw she pride overboard, then combines her rank and wealth with obesity, swollen, tortured face, advanced nymphomania, and repellent grace. Pay out large sums of money trying to procure some loving. But true love, I must insist, cannot be captured like this. No, it just cannot be purchased. So they would flock to bars, luncheons and parties, flashing cars, and counting calories in an effort to create discussions of great importance. Flaunting the rank and the wealth to gain acceptance. But that feeling of guilt from deliberate mistakes, night after night, keeps them ever awake. Money heartaches is too much for them to take. Say it again. Money heartaches is too much for them to take. Money heartaches is too much for them to take. Money heartaches. See my partner clapping there, but he have more money more than the law allow. That's all right, man. You know, I'm glad I know you when you know, in the old days. Remember I tell them today, man used to have me pushing the car. Get a car, we used to call it the wrong tongue car. I couldn't go no further than Piccadilly Street. Wrong tongue car. The driver and owner, Mr. Neil Malaki Jones. His riding partner, Mighty Sparrow. His pushing partner, Mighty Sparrow. The man to jack up the car, Mighty Sparrow. Boy, I telling you. You know, you owe me a lot, you know. But it's all right. I will collect that. We go pass by the bar just now. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to another favorite of mine. This one has to do with, I don't know if you remember, when Nelson Mandela was welcomed to the fold, the Western fold that is. Nelson Mandela came and Ted Koppel interviewed him on TV. Were you paying attention? Yeah. Nelson Mandela came, you know, because all the years he was sort of neglected, abandoned, if you will, in South Africa, fighting all kind of fight, and then eventually whatever happened, I think it was Reagan, decided to embrace him in the fold. And Ted Koppel decided, well, all right, now that you're here, we decide to welcome you because we think you went through enough, Robben's Island, etc., etc. But you must neglect and abandon and debase Muammar Gaddafi, Fidel Castro, and Yasser Arafat, enemies of the West. And he refused. That's the whole basis for the song. I owe no apology, he said. Interviewing Nelson Mandela on a TV show. Ted Koppel was the interviewer. I want you to know he wanted Mandela to condemn Muammar Gaddafi, Fidel Castro, Yasser Arafat, right there on TV. Mandela said, these people helped me when apartheid was on the rise. I dealt with them out of necessity, so I will not apologize. You hear? Though it grieves me to see the people suffering, but chains of bondage have been placed on my head to impede my progress. And then the man said, thorns and thistles have been laid on my bed to curtail my rest. I've been tortured and suffered immensely. They isolate me, incarcerate me. Still in spite of their barbarous cruelty, I will never apologize for my identity. Tell them. And then he said, no apology for my color, it is part of me. I'm wearing it bravely with honor, pride, and dignity. How can I say sorry for a birthright made proud by my forefathers? A skin that blends with the darkness of night, yet distinguishes me from others. There were times I know because of it, tears of sorrow had filled my eyes. But the Lord made me free in spirit, so I will not apologize. You're here, though it grieves me to see the people suffering, but chains of bondage have been placed on my head to impede my progress. And then he said, thorns and thistles have been laid on my bed to curtail my rest. They subject me to gross inhumanity, brutality, hostility. Still, no matter how rough their tactics be, I will never apologize for my identity. Tell them, yes, I owe no apology. Personally, I have done no wrong. What I have endured physically have made me more strong. How can I be ashamed of a mind that refuses to be twisted? A heart as warm as the morning sunshine, a character so gifted with these trials and tribulations. I am fulfilling destiny in my quest for emancipation. I owe no apology. You hear? Though it grieves me to see the people suffering, but chains of bondage have been placed on my head to impede my progress. And then the man said, thorns and thistles have been laid on my bed to curtail my rest. I've had my share of pain and misery. It was ghastly, downright nasty. But I surrendered, now I'm shouting victory, cause I'll never apologize for my identity. Yes? No apology for my culture. It suits me fine. The folklore of all my ancestors makes me feel sublime. I am not repentant of a music that expresses how I feel. These sweet melodies come from deep in the soul, enriching all my ideals. He said the rhythm does give me courage, and the lyrics does make me wise. So in spite of all the advantage, I will not apologize. You hear? Though it grieves me to see the people suffering, but chains of bondage have been placed on my head to impede my progress. Thorns and thistles have been laid on my bed to curtail my rest. Their exercises were in futility. That's when they gave me their psychotherapy. But they surrendered and I'm still shouting victory, cause I'll never apologize for my identity.
I will never apologize for my identity. Never apologize for your identity. You didn't ask to be identified the way you're identified. Never apologize for your identity. If the mighty sparrow turns 90 this year, 90 years old, if he were in Guyana, he would be deemed a racist for saying, I will never apologize for my identity. Thorns and thistles have been placed on my head, but I will never apologize for my identity. Good evening to you all on a Friday evening. It's good to be with you. It's good to be on, to talk, to mobilize, to reflect, to learn, and to teach. Good evening to all of you, wherever you're joining us from, whether you're joining us from outside of Guyana or you're joining us from in Guyana. It's good to be alive. It's good to be ready for the struggle, and never apologize for your identity. Whether you're indigenous, Portuguese, Chinese, East Indian, African, European, mixed, although mixed is not a race, never apologize for your identity. The PPP has done a good job of making identity a crime. Not for them. I heard Jack Dio yesterday saying, our traditional base, East Indians. Yes, he said, our traditional base, East Indians, are going to vote for us. If anyone on this side were to say, our traditional base, Africans, will vote for us, it would be headline in the state media. Dr. Hines says that Africans must only vote for the APNU. But Jabdio said it matter-of-factly, and he said the truth. The traditional base of the PPP is East Indians. And the vast majority of East Indians are going to vote for the PPP. And there's no crime in that. There's no crime. East Indians are not racist because they vote for one party. What they've done is that they have aligned their interests with one party. And Africans should be free to do the same thing. There's no crime if the majority of Africans vote for one party or one set of parties. It's their right. But PPP leaders could speak freely about the identity of their supporters. But when African leaders speak about the identity of their supporters, they are deemed racist. And a lot of our leaders, the vast majority of them, they have succumbed to that pressure. They've succumbed to that pressure. They hardly talk about their supporters' racial identity or ethnic identity. They shy away from it because they've allowed the PPP to demonize them, and so they cannot speak directly to their people about identity. Yet the truth of the matter is the PPP cannot, will not ever win an election without the vast majority of Indian voters. The PPP, I repeat, will never win an election in Guyana without the vast majority of East Indians voted for them. That's a fact. And the PNC slash APNU will never win an election without the vast majority of Africans voting for. That's a fact. Yet one side could speak freely about it, and the other side is afraid to touch the issue. Yet the truth of the matter is, if the APNU is going to win the upcoming election, the vast majority of their votes will have to come from the traditional base, which is African. And if the PPP were to win an election, the vast majority of votes will have to come from their traditional base, which is East Indian, as Jack Dio said yesterday. And you didn't see a headline from any source, from any media house, calling Jack Dio racist. If I were to say it, Norton were to say it, there'll be a headline. Dr. Hines plays the race card. And the fact of the matter is that we allow it to happen. We allow the PPP. Jack Dio says every time he goes public, the opposition is all about racism, 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 racism. Now, the opposition a party cannot be racist. A party is made up of hundreds of people, thousands of people. So a party can be racist because racism is about people. A racist is someone who believes his race or his ethnic group or her ethnic group is superior to each other, superior to others. Racial superiority. So a party can be racist. So when Jack Dio says the PNC is racist, or the WPA is racist, or the AFC is racist, it's a very ignorant statement. Ignorant in the sense that he's not expressing a proper understanding of racism, or he knows the proper understanding of what racism is, but he's deliberately saying it so that others can repeat it. There may be racists inside a party. There may be. And perhaps they are. As I always say, I do not know if somebody is a racist until they say they're a racist. They're racist. I can't go in somebody's head and find out whether they believe their ethnic group is superior to another ethnic group. So I do not know if Jack Dio is racist. I do not know if Freddie Kitsoon is racist. I do not know if Orphanali is racist. I don't know. I can't know unless they say, I am a racist. I believe that my ethnic group is superior to another ethnic group. And I've not heard Jack Dio say that. I've not heard Irfan Ali say it. I've not heard Freddie Kitsoon say it. I've not heard any of them say that they believe their group is superior to other groups. So I can't call them a racist. Yet they call me a racist. And they've never heard me say Africans are superior to Indians, but they call me a racist. So it's either they're ignorant of the meaning of racism, or they know the meaning of racism, but they are deliberately doing it, or both. What I do know is that the PPP is using the government and the state to enact policies that favor one ethnicity over another. What I do know is that the PPP in office enact policies that increase the economic gap between the races. What I do know is the PPP in office has done nothing to increase the share of the economic pie among African Guyanese and among indigenous Guyanese. That is a fact. That is verifiable. In that sense, the PPP presides over racist policies. It's called institutional racism. That is, they use the institutions of the government and the state to further the economic divide among the races. What I do know is the PPP has not distributed the economic resources of this country equitably. The PPP has been called upon several times to show us the facts. Do ethnic impact statements. So you spend 57% of the budget on infrastructure. Show us how that large amount of money, 57% of $1.3 trillion, show us how much of that money, which goes via contracts, show us how much of that money through contract goes to Amerindians, how much goes to African, how much goes to Indian, how much goes to Chinese and Portuguese. Show us. And if you can show that 57% of $1.3 trillion is distributed almost equitably among the ethnic groups, then we will have to shut up. We cannot accuse you of racist policies. And the PPP is yet to provide that information. The opposition has done its independent research. And it shows that 90% of or more of that money goes to one or two ethnic groups. Amerindians and Africans combined get less of that money. And so therefore they get less wealth, because money is the basis, excess money is the basis of wealth. That what young Africans get, and some of them are jumping up and winding up for it, is a $2, $3, $4 million to clean trenches and clean drains. By the time they pay the workers and so on, they're left with a small piece. And they spend that out in a matter of days. So they do not have excess income left over, which can then be turned into wealth. While their counterparts, the contractors, Indian contractors and so on, they get big contracts for 200 and 300 and 400 million. You get a contract for 300-400 million. By the time you pay your workers, you're walking away in your pocket with $300 million in one shot. Out of that $300 million, you have to buy food, clothing, housing, and pay your mortgage if you have that, etc. You got about 250 million excess money gone into the bank. That becomes the basis for investment in other areas of the economy. And so you begin to generate wealth. So in one contract for $400 million, $300 million, you have enough money there to begin to accumulate wealth over time. You are able to send your children to school. They don't have to take out student loan. You send them to the best universities in America and England and so on. Pay cash money. So when they leave school, when they leave university, they don't have a cent. Poor people who send their children to the same university, they have to take out a loan. So when their children graduate, they graduate with a debt. The man who got a $400 million contract, his child is graduating not with a debt, is graduating with an asset. That child graduates, he gives that child a car and a house as a graduation present. They start with wealth, generation wealth. The child from the other side has to take out a student loan, or the parents got to take out a loan somewhere to send them to be lawyer and doctor. And then when they graduate, they throw a graduation party for them. Not a house and a car. And so you have two children, two young people graduating from the same big shot university with the same GPA, but one graduates with a debt and one graduates with assets. And so the economic divide, although they're both lawyers, both doctors, both went to Harvard or wherever the parents send them. But one starts with a debt and the other one starts with wealth. So, sisters and brothers, the PPP does not want to talk about, and they don't want us to talk about how their economic policies lead to ethnic and racial discrimination in the society. Because it is discrimination. It is discrimination. And in that sense, they are overseeing racist policies. Whether they're racist or not, I don't know. And I am not losing sleep over that. I am judging the PPP by its policies. In 1964, in the United States, they came to a conclusion that white Americans, a white American family, was 8 times richer than a black American family. It came to that conclusion. And it had to do with the policies. And so they passed a law. They passed a law empowering the government to close that gap. They call it affirmative action. They recognize the disparities in wealth And they passed a law and said we have to close this well. It was part of the Great Society program of Lyndon Johnson, in which he said America was afflicted by two sins: racism and economic disparity. And they sought to close the gap. Dr. King, of course, said there was a third one, which was militarism. Until our government in Guyana recognizes the ethnic disparity in wealth and seek to do something about it, not via handouts, not via handouts, but do something about the structures, the institutions that facilitates the accumulation of wealth. It is the institutions that facilitate the accumulation of wealth. The banking system, the tendering system, the procurement system. You have to democratize those systems to allow the various groups in society to be able to accumulate wealth equitably. Equality of opportunity. Not equality of outcome. You can't get equality of outcome without equality of opportunity. There has to be equal opportunity. And then there's a third equality that we often miss, and that is equality of condition. Because it is your condition that will determine whether you have the opportunity. What do I mean by that? If you have 57% of $1.3 trillion in contracts, and the people with the equipment, the people with the capital who are able to tender for contracts, and then you have people without capital, without the necessary equipment, so the conditions are not equal. Those with the better conditions will get more opportunities. If you don't have the equipment, you don't have the capital to be able to vie for big contracts, then you are not going to get the opportunities because your condition doesn't allow you to get the opportunities. And then if there's no equality of opportunities, there's no equality of outcome. So the outcome is that one or two ethnic groups, at the end of the process, they would have wealth because their condition allow them to get more opportunities. And so more opportunities mean more outcome. There's no equality of opportunity because there's no equality of condition. And there's no equality of outcome because there's no equality of opportunity. So one can say there are opportunities. Why do African people don't take advantage of the opportunities? Well, there may be opportunities to go study law in Trinidad, but you can't get money. You can't get big money to pay to go to Trinidad. And if your parents don't have the money to send you to Trinidad, the opportunities are there, but they can't take advantage of it. And those who have wealth can send their children to Trinidad to go study law. They take the opportunities. So you can say, oh, there are opportunities out there Why people don't take advantage of them? Well, they have to be in a position to take advantage of the opportunities. And the PPP has not done so. They talk about these gold scholarships. And so they give people, we know what the problem with the gold scholarships. The people go, they get a degree or two, but the degree does not equip them with the necessary skills that is going to increase their earning power. At the end of the day, if you get a degree under questionable circumstances, like the gold degrees, and someone comes with a degree from Harvard University, Howard University, Oxford University, and you go for a job with a person who get their engineering degree from MIT, and the person who get an engineering degree through one of these gold things, and you go for a job, the person with the degree from MIT is going to get the opportunity over you. And if they employ both of you, the person with the MIT degree is going to earn more. So the gold scholarship thing is a farce. If the gold scholarship was taking our young people to Harvard and Howard and MIT and Stanford, and they come back, yes. So rather than doing that, any sensible person who knows anything about education would beef up UG, turn UG into Research 1 or a Research 2 university, and then give our people the opportunities to go to UG and graduate from UG, with UG being up there as a Research 1 or Research 2 university, rather than send them to these online things. And those of us who teach online know the limitations of online education in certain areas. In some areas, the online thing works. In other areas, it doesn't work. And so if one is talking about improving the skills of our people so that they can compete, and so that at the end, they can earn incomes that allow excess income that they can turn it into wealth. And so that has to be corrected. And the APNU, which is projecting itself, we are projecting ourselves as an alternative to the PPP. We have to say to the groups that are lagging behind economically, what is our program to bridge the gap between those who have excess wealth and those who have little or no wealth? How are we going to bridge that gap? It is just not a problem of the poor and the rich. Yes, we have a problem of the poor and rich. Social class. We have to bridge the gap between the social classes. But we also have to bridge the gap between the races. So we have a double problem and challenge. And often, race and class are intertwined. You have an Amerindian woman. She's poor because she's a woman. So women don't work for as much as men. Then our ethnicity is the poorest ethnicity in Guyana. Amerindians are the poorest. So there is gender poverty, ethnic poverty, and then social poverty. So, you know, it's a triple whammy. And these are the structural issues that we have to confront in Guyana. Why, when you go to gas stations to gas up, invariably, the people pumping gas are women, often young girls. We have a gas station here in Buxton. In years, I've not seen a male pumping gas. Females, one and two gas stations, I notice, get one boys. But women. And when you pump gas, I ask the young people how much they earn. It's at the bottom of the ladder. So it's not just that they're women, they're often African women. So the income they get is at the very, very bottom because they're women, because they're African. I hardly see East Indian women or Portuguese women or Chinese women pumping gas. If I'm not telling the truth, well, you all inform me. I imagine if there are gas stations in the interior, it would be indigenous women who are pumping gas. I don't know. But I can tell you on the coast, for the most part, it's young women and they're young African women. The same thing in the security sector. Low wages and the vast majority of security guards are women who are of African descent. Very low wages. And so, sisters and brothers, we cannot be afraid to talk about identity politics. The PPP is not afraid to talk about it. The PPP is conscious about it. The PPP may be doing a little of it in their community because the vast majority of East Indians are still poor. But at least the PPP confronts it in public. It talks about identity. We are in African parties do not talk about identity. There may be about 6 headlines tomorrow in the opposition. Dr. Hinds was on his program last night talking racism. So in saying that the vast majority of people who pump gas at the gas stations are Africans, African women, that will be termed Dr. Hinds talking racism. And so you understand why our leaders don't go there. They don't deal with those issues. But when I walk around Guyana, I walk around Buxton where I live, I walk in other African Guyanese communities, people come up to me and say, the last time you all did nothing for us. And tell me why I must vote for you all this time, expecting that you all will do something for us. Yet, we cannot deal with that issue in public. We can't deal with it in public. We're going to be called racist. Yet, that's what our supporters are telling us. That's what they're telling us. Some of the young people are saying, are going for Mohammed because they believe when Mohammed gets in government, he going to build house to them. Whether that is fantasy or not is not the issue. The issue is that we have to frontally deal with the issue of class disparity, ethnic disparity, and gender disparity. And we have to confront it. That is why poverty has to be wiped off the face of Guyana. And you can't wipe poverty just have Black people face, or just have Indian people face, or just have Amerindian people face. We have to wipe poverty off the faces of all ethnic groups. All ethnic groups. Although there is more money circulating in the Indian community, it is circulating mostly among the Indian elite, the Indian economic elite. There's the old Indian economic elite and there's the new Indian economic elite. And the money is circulating among that elite. But given the way in which our country is organized, some of that wealth at the top will trickle down. And it will trickle down in the ethnic communities that the wealth is located. So there's not very much wealth among the African elites. In the African community, we have what are called social elites or education elites, lawyers, doctors, etc. We have plenty of that in the African communities, teachers, and so on. So we have elites, but our elites are more in the so-called professions, the lawyers, the doctors, the teachers, and so on. In the Portuguese community and the African, they have lawyers and doctors, but they also have wealthy people, economic elites. If you're in the African community and you look up and you look around, you see lots of teachers. You see lots of nurses. And so, insofar as you project what you want to be, people often want to be what they say. Policemen and women, nurses, teachers. So often our people want to be teachers. And that is why in those professions, you see more Africans than other groups. Because when people are projecting what you want to be, you are looking at the people around you in your community. If you are in the Indian community or the Portuguese community, you look up, you see teachers, a few. You see some nurses, a few. But you see a lot of business people, wealthy people. And so when you go to university, you're more likely to want to study business administration. And so what happens is that institutions in the society, these institutions reproduce what is there. In the African Guyanese community, we reproduce teachers. Not a bad thing. I'm a teacher. Teaching is good. But then we reproduce the teachers, but the teachers are not paid with money that can allow them to accumulate wealth. You see, the problem is not the profession. I love teaching. I would encourage young people to go into teaching, go into nursing. You're saving lives. Going to teaching, you're molding the society. Going to the army and the police, you are helping to protect your country and so on. But are those professions allowing the kind of wages and salary that will allow you to live and then take the excess and turn it into wealth? And the answer is a big no. Big no. You're a public servant, you're a teacher, you're a nurse, you're a doctor, You earn little money. You don't earn a living wage. But more importantly, when it comes to taxes, you can't dodge taxes. You're automatically taxed because you're working for the tax man. You're working for the government, and the government is the tax man. So you have to pay taxes. People who are in the private sector, they can dodge taxes. First, they're earning more because they are in a sector in the economy in which you can generate wealth quicker. And then you can dodge taxes. So you are able to generate more wealth at a faster rate. And that is what we have to change. The government has to say, look, the vast majority of people, Amerindians, Africans, are working in sectors in which they don't generate enough income to allow them to live, reproduce themselves on a day-to-day basis, and then give them some excess income so that they can turn it into wealth, that they can leave something for their children. How are we going to do that? How are we going to make workers into wealth generators? That is a challenge. That is why my party is saying we first of all must have a universal basic income, that we must guarantee every Guyanese a basic income. That basic income is going to ensure that they're able to live a livable basic income. Take care of your food, your shelter, your clothing, the basic things. That's why we call it the basic income. And what you earn above the basic income could become the basis for turning that over, as old people used to say, and turning that into wealth. That is what the WP is proposing. We have it in our manifesto. As I mentioned last night, the APNU manifesto and the WPA manifesto are being merged, or however they're doing it. I'm not on that committee, so I don't want to use the wrong term. A basic income means that you have an income that will provide the basic things that you need to live. Your shelter, mean your rent or your mortgage or whatever. You have an income that will take care of those things. And what you earn above that income now become excess income. And that is what you can take and invest in coal, or invest in a supermarket, or whatever. So the PPP doesn't want us to talk about it. And we are sometimes very hesitant. The first thing, the APNU on their platform said, look, we are going to do so and so to raise the income of mostly poor people. And the first thing they ask, how are you going to pay for it? How the hell are you paying for all them bridge and road that you get all over the place? Did anyone ask the PPP how they're going to pay for the bridge? And how they're paying for it. You pay for it by the wealth that is coming in, the money that is coming, mostly from oil, because they have done a mess with agriculture. So we're not generating a lot from agriculture. They have killed bauxite. So we are depending mostly on oil. But given the price of oil on the world market, we are guaranteed income. And we can borrow based on projected income, not excess borrowing. We can take some of that oil money and invest it so that it can yield more money. But we have enough money coming in to at least give our working people a basic livable income. And that is what the APNU is saying. We are going to give a basic guarantee our people, all our people, Africans, Indians, Portuguese, Chinese, all our people, a basic income that will take care of the basic things they need in life. And the first thing they ask, how we paying for it? Well, how you paying? For all them money that you're spending, 57% of $1.3 million. How you paying for it? And where is that money going? It's going into the pockets of the rich. It is not going into the pockets of the poor, so that the poor can lift itself out of poverty. So do not be fooled, comrades. Do not be fooled. We have to wipe poverty off the face of Guyana. When you go in the market and they say the cost of living is high, at a basic level, what it means is that when I go in the market and I look at the price of food, I don't have enough money to afford the prices that they're calling for the food. For some of us, the prices in the market high, but we earn enough and we can buy and don't be in debt. But if you are working for a teacher's salary and you go in the market, clearly you're working for a nurse salary, you're working for a laborer salary. Clearly, when you go in the market, your earnings does not allow you to buy the food. So it's either the prices of food got come down or your earnings got go up. It's only two ways. And since we know enough that it is easier to raise the income of workers than to bring down prices, we know that once prices go up, they stay up. They don't come down. Unless the government puts a regulation, price regulation and so on. And to do that, they say it's going against the free market. So governments today are loath to regulate prices. Government could say they give incentive to business people with the hope that the business people going to use the incentive to bring down prices. That don't happen. You have no control over that. What the government has control over is first and foremost the income that it pays its workers. And for those who are not working for the government can implement what, as we say, a basic income that has to be paid to workers. So when the PPPs are, how we going to pay? They're trying to tell us we must not deal with poverty. Poverty is an institutional problem. You give $100,000 one-off to people. You look around this society. Most poor people are in debt. You give them $100,000, most of them wipe off the little debt that they get, or big debt that they get, wipe off some of it. Or a lot of people seem to take the $100,000, buy a big thing, I buy a motorbike to move me around, and then I don't have to pay passage no more. A lot of them take it to buy basic things. So instead of giving $100 freck, why not give a basic income so that every month people know they have income that can cover their expenses, rather than $100,000 every now and again. And that is the difference between the policies of the WPA/APNU and the policies of the PPP. The PPP is believing that when it gives $100,000 to people, and that $100,000 was really a bribe, because the PPP wanted the data that would come. So when Guyanese go, they collect the $100,000, you have to register. So they have the data. They know how many people actually are in Port Morant, how many people there is votes. They use the $100,000 to create their own database that tells them where people are, where they are losing, where their supporters are less than the supporters of the opposition. They weren't interested in money. The money was incidental. It is the data. So they now have two databases. They have the census, which they're not releasing, and then they have the data they collect from the $100,000. If they were interested in poverty alleviation, as we are, you see, they try to scare you. I understand that the biggest applause line on Sunday night was when we said that we will give $1 million to each family. Right away, the PPP said, Dr. Hinds said, we'll give $1 million to each individual. They know from 2018, we be saying we are giving the cash transfer to each household. They know that, they know. So I said each individual will benefit from $1 million cash transfer to each family or each household. We have about 220 to 230,000 households. So it will be $230 million. They calculate some figure saying it's $58 billion. It's to each household, each family. And if you have a 230,000 family, $240,000, 240,000 family/household is $240 million. And they're telling us they can't afford that in $1.3 trillion. But they calculate and say, Dr. Hinds is telling us that we have to, it can cost 58% of the present. I don't worry with them. But the fact of the matter, some of our people listen to more of the PPP propaganda than they go and listen to what we are saying. It will cost us $1 million, 230,000 households, 240, 250,000 households. It's 250, but not 250 million. It's 250,000 households. So you multiply 250,000 by $1 million, and it comes up not to 230 million. It comes up to, 2 or 3 times that. But it's millions of dollars, not billion, as they're saying. Not billions. And we can afford it. If we do as we say, take 10% of the oil earnings, it may come up to slightly less than $1 million. It may come up to more than $1 million. But we're talking about families. You see, when you say individuals over 18, as we pointed out, you got some of our young people, 15, 16, 17 years old. They have families, 2 and 3 children, they were left out of the 100,000. But when we say households, when we say households, then we are including them. So if you take 230,000 families and you multiply that by $1 million, it probably will go into the billions, may probably go to a couple $1 billion. But you're talking about a budget of 1.3 trillion. There's a small percentage of the budget. Small percentage of the budget. And yet, they're making noise because they know that it's a very popular proposal. Very popular proposal. But they're trying to scare you and trying to say, oh, no, don't worry them. When we came out with the cash transfer, every single political party in this country said it can't work. Every single. The PPP said it can't work. We are crazy. Dave Thomas is crazy. And then they took it, bastardized it, and used it. That is what we are dealing with in this country. Sisters and brothers, we have to be serious. As I said, the PPP has made it clear that its traditional base, I'm quoting Jack Deal, our traditional base Indian Guyanese are by and large going to vote for us. That's what Jack Deal said yesterday. And I am saying our traditional base, largely African Guyanese, will have to ask themselves the question, do you want to go and vote for a party that is not representative of your group, yet you're saying you want your group to be empowered? That is the question. Indian Guyanese are not fully empowered by the PPP. They're not. We know that. A lot of the money that the PPP is pumping into those communities is going to the elites. But those elites are providing services in the Indian community. Yesterday, I wanted to buy a battery for the alarm for my car. A little battery. I think it costs $1,000. I asked them, boys in Buxton, is there any place in Buxton that's selling these batteries? They said, no, Dr. Hinds, you gotta go to Strathspey. I had to go to Strathspey. My point is that the person who's living in Strathspey needs that service. He or she gets that service in their community. So many things I ask in the village. Is this, no, you got to go to Annandale. No, you got to go this way. No, you got to go that way. The PPP has no interest in ensuring that a Buxton, a Pleasance, a BV becomes a thriving village economy. You go to some villages, they have thriving markets. They have a bank. They have everybody driving a car now. They have things that sell car parts. They have this, they have that. So those communities are microeconomies on their own. You come to our community, you can get food to buy, a lot of food, as I said here. Everybody's trying to sell some food, sell juice and so on. But when you want other things, when you want to go to a bank, you have to travel and go out of your community. When you want a little battery to buy for your remote, you have to go out of your community. when you want a car part to buy out of your community. So those of us who are excited, especially younger people, by the little $3 million, $4 million contract, I'm not saying that something is wrong with those contracts. No, take them. At least you're putting some food in your mouth, on your table. But they're not building economies. They're not giving you scope to create wealth. And that is the issue and the challenge for us in the opposition. How do we bring the Buxtons and the BVs and the Pleasants and the Golden Grove, how do we bring those communities on par with Enmore and Better Hope and so on, so that they're all thriving or semi-thriving economies? In order to do that, you have to recognize the problem and lay it out there. The village economy is in a better shape in the Indian communities than it is in the African Amerindian communities. You are the Amerindian speakers of the launch. Talk about what is available in the Amerindian communities and what is not available. As I said, when I look around the villages, the African villages, I see an attempt to, set up little small business and so on. But it's only so far you can go with that. There's no market. There's no big market in Buxton. No, there's not. And the PPP is not interested. You see, if you have a market, your money is circulating in your community. You don't have a market, you're spending your money outside of your community. So the money goes out of your community. It doesn't circulate in your community. The money, as you know, circulates 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, so on and so forth. And that is what we have to look at, the big picture. Some of our young people are being carried away because, if you get a $2 million contract and you end up with $800,000, $700,000 in your pocket, that's more than you would normally get. And that is good, but that is not going to pull you out of poverty. It's not going to pull you out of poverty. When you get a $4 million contract and another man get a $400 million contract, his $400 million contract is going to pull him and his family. He's able to pay his workers a little bit more than you are able to pay your workers to clean. And his contract is not to clean trench. His contract is going to employ skilled workers. So the people who are going to work for him will be encouraged to up their skill level. They're going to earn more. You don't need any particular skill to clean trench. And it's almost a shame to see our people. Somebody got to clean the trench, I understand that. But you can mechanize cleaning trench. To get our people going into them stink water and cleaning trench and say you're empowering them, that has to stop. That has to stop. It's demeaning to an ethnic group. Demeaning is demeaning to poor people of all races in 2025. To get them to go and clean trenches and drain. And then when they come out of there, put on red jersey from them and they get them winding up. Hey, civic. It's demeaning. Demeaning. And as a black person, it's demeaning to black people. I find it demeaning. I find it demeaning for all people, poor people of all races. And then you command them to go Sunday at your lunch and take out the picture. Get them, demean them by giving them a small piece to go and clean dirty drains and so on. And then, they got to go now and wind up themselves on Sunday. Demeaning. It is very demeaning. And I want to appeal to first African people because I'm African. And Africans are the ones who are targeted for that kind of stuff. I want to say you all need to stop it. You all need to stop it. I'm not saying it's better to earn money and there's dignity in all labor. But don't feel that you have to go now wind up yourself as a form of thanks for that. You must see that as a stopgap. And you don't have to go and wind up yourself for it. You don't have to go and make yourself a puppet for it. And this is, I'm talking to many Africans here, but it's also to Amerindians and East Indian poor people who feel that they have to go wind up themselves because they get a little thing to clean drain. Demeaning. It's demeaning to us as black people, demeaning to us as poor people. Yes, there is dignity in all labor, but this is 2025. In the richest, fastest growing economy in the world, we cannot be grateful because we get a little 14-day work or whatever they call it, I don't know, the $40,000 give them. You cannot be thankful for that. You cannot be grateful for that. You're glad that you're getting $40,000, but you must not be grateful for that. That is, you're worth more than that. Your foreparents were forced to do that. And the $40,000 they're giving you is slave wage. So you're back to the plantation, although it's not physical. It's slave wage. And you cannot be grateful for it. You should take that money, say, I'm going to place my vote to get rid of this government. We have to take you out of cleaning trenches and cleaning stink drainers. We in the APN, you have to do that, and we have to say, as I'm saying now, we are committed to doing that. It's undignified. If you're going to clean, the trenches have to be clean. The drainers have to be cleaned. But there are no equipment that can do that. You can operate those equipment and clean the drainers. You don't have to go and put yourself in stink water and think for a penny and feel nice about it. Go and wind up and say thanks, master, for it. Undignified. And we on this side have to be very bold in saying that we will take our people out of the stink drainers, out of the stink trenches. In the first place, we should not be stinking up our drainers and trenches. If this government had any environmental program, environmental policy, our drainers and trenches would not be so stink. That is the first thing. So we have to get rid of stink drainers and stink trenches. And insofar as they're stinking, get our people out of it. We have to be bold in saying those things. So here are some challenges. I said last night, are we going to vote our sentiments Or are we going to vote our big objective? Our big objective, get rid of the PPP, put in place a government that is going to take away torture, take away poverty from among our people. That's our objective. And if that's our objective, then our vote has to push that objective. You can't tell me, how are going to give me vote to Mohammed? I know he ain't going to win. What kind of foolishness is that? You want to get rid of the PPP. You know Mohammed can't get rid of the PPP, but you go in and give your vote for Mohammed. Contradiction. Contradiction. If the objective is to remove the PPP, replace it with a government that's going to take out the sting drainer, that's going to up your skill level so that you can earn more. A government that's going to provide a basic living wage, a universal basic income. If that's your objective, then your vote must match your objective. Your vote can go not, and your objective the south. Wow. We get 8 too. We get 8 too. Yes, there's one side of your head and the next side, merge it together. You cannot punish yourself for the mistake of leaders. You may like a leader. A leader on the opposition side. I like some leaders on the opposition side. I do. But some of us on the opposition side made mistakes. And we fragment by our choices. All of us have to fragment the opposition. Now, you are faced with a fragmented opposition. Are you going to torture yourself for the next 5 years? Because our leaders couldn't get it together? As I said last night, even at this 11th hour, this 12th hour, I would do anything within reason to bring Brother Nigel, Sister Simona, Sister Manza, to bring them on board the Grand Coalition. I do anything. I think that's where they deserve to be. If the objective is to remove the PPP and to replace it with a government that is humane, if that's not your objective, then the fragmented opposition makes sense. Because a fragmented opposition gives the PPP a better chance of returning to power. If your objective is for the PPP to return to power either as a majority government or a minority government, maybe a fragmented opposition is a thing. But if you are saying you want to remove the PPP from office and to replace it with a humane government, a fragmented opposition is not the best option. And insofar as we have a fragmented opposition, our voters should not punish themselves because our leaders couldn't get it together. There are challenges in any coalition. There are challenges in any coalition. Are there challenges in the APN coalition right now? Yes, there are challenges. But we have to work those challenges through because we keep our eyes on the big prize. And the big prize is to remove. Look, if I could help my people in opposition, I wouldn't worry to go into government. I want to help my people. But given the way our system is, I can't help my people in opposition. When they come to me, they're coming to me to, can I guarantee, facilitate, steer them to where they can get a job? I can't do that in opposition in the system. In in Jamaica and some of these places, the opposition parliamentarians, they get subvention from government that they can use in communities, so they can help their supporters a little way, even if they're in opposition. Can they get subvention from government? Not in Guyana. Now, my overall objective, the Working People's Alliance overall objective, is a government of national unity. If we had a system of winner does not take all, then at the end of the election, the PPP will be in government, the APNU will be in government, the AFC will be in government, Amanza would be in government. If we had a different system, but we have a winner takes all system. Our objective can be south and our vote north. The vote and the objective have to come together. As I said last night, this is not about telling you not to vote your conscience, as some people say, or vote your sentiments. Who am I? People must have a right to. But don't tell me you want to get rid of the PPP. And then at the same time telling me, well, I'm going to vote for Mohammed. Don't make sense to me. Mohammed and Mohammed friends get a fallout. And you telling me you're going to give your vote to one of the warring factions. Something cuckoo. We have to think this thing through. One Barabbas, as a lady tell me, where meet this lady? I met her, I think, at Vincent Burnham Foundation's brunch. One Barabbas betrayed Christ, she said. You go look for a second Barabbas? That's what a lady tell me. That's what a lady tell me. My position is very clear. If Mohammed is going to help to bring down the PPP government, then they do that. They demonstrate that. But if he's going to help to weaken our chances of bringing down the PPP government, then we have to ask some questions. Mohammed ain't going to win. So if you're voting for Mohammed, you're not voting to win. You may say, well, I'm voting for Mohammed because I want to manage the PPP. Well, the best way to manage the PPP is to kick them out of office. Kick them out of office. I will have more to say on these issues in the coming days and weeks, because we got locked in this thing. We got to lock in this thing, and we have to do it in a way that bring our people along. I understand that there are doubts in the minds of some of our traditional voters. I understand. I understand. But even if we got all we knows, we have to do these things. The WPA campaign fund was launched last night. Some of you have already contributed. Please contribute to our campaign. The stuff is on the screen. The Zelle, the Cash App, the MMG. I promised the people in Canada to get the information where you can make your donation, and also the people in Europe. I've been able to put that together. But those of you who can, in the United States and Guyana, please make your donation. Some of you have already donated since last night when we launched the campaign. And I thank you. I shall thank you by your first name. And on our next show, Monday is nomination day. I am not sure whether we will have a show. I will try as much as possible because nominations should be over fairly early. So once that is possible, we're going to have a show on Monday. Please contribute to the WPA campaign fund. The Zelle information is on the screen. The Cash App, MMG, etc., etc. Please donate to the WPA's campaign fund. Monday, nomination day. It's going to be covered live. I understand the APN will be the first in. And once that wraps up early, as I suspect it would, then I will see you all on Monday night. I love you all so much. Those of you who have kept the faith for these last years, continue to stay with us. We are marching to victory. We are marching to victory. Let us be confident in ourselves.